Hello and welcome, you crazy people. My name is Jay, and today we're going to be looking at some video games for, set in the Age of Sigmar universe. And there's two big games that have been, announced. However, we already knew one of them was coming. So first and foremost, we've got Warhammer Age of Sigmar Storm Ground. Interesting title. No, it doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue, that does it? Storm Ground, which apparently is made by some of the Dawn of War 1 and 2 developers, and they were the highly rated 40k games as opposed to Dawn of War 3. And then the other game is Blood Bowl 3, but we sort of already knew that was coming, but there's been a trailer, so I thought we'd have a look at it. One reason I'm talking about this is that I am considering streaming to Twitch a little bit more. I say a bit more, like actually starting to stream games and stuff like that over there. So there's a link in the description. It's twitch.tv/JOddityYT, I think, because I couldn't get JOddity. So there you have it. So yeah, let's have a look at the trailer. There's not actually that much in the trailer, but it's interesting to look at. One key thing here that I find particularly interesting is there's not that many good 40k games. Was the Age of Sigmar or / Fantasy seems to do either better, like Mordheim, Warhammer Total War, and all that kind of stuff. Now we're going to get a Dawn of War kind of Age of Sigmar game, which I suspect people will probably really enjoy. We've got Warhammer Underworld, and of course Blood Bowl as well, which isn't actually like, it's Blood Bowl. Everybody knows what you're going to get, but for sure, I mean, there's not much in the trailer, so I can't really talk too much about it because it's just a very nice trailer, and I'm just sort of letting you know that this is a thing. The fact that it's made by the Dawn of War 1 and 2 developers, that's interesting. I don't think there's like a proper release date. It just says 2021, but it is coming to PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and all that kind of stuff. Although I suspect if it's actually coming to these consoles, that it'll also be on next gen, but that's not what it says. Very interesting anyway. Announced at Gamescom, and I'm pretty excited for it. But yeah, like I said, I sort of want to play a bit more like video games and start streaming and stuff like that, and seeing games set in the Age of Sigmar universe is always nice. And then the other one, which I will show you in 1 second, I'm just sort of setting it up off screen because I'm a super professional like that, is the Blood Bowl trailer. So Blood Bowl, I mean, you know what you're getting. The key thing about the Blood Bowl trailer is obviously Blood Bowl is getting a new edition, so they're doing a new game that ties nicely in with the new edition. Obviously it'll have all the new rules and factions, whatever Games Workshop have decided that the rules are. They will be pretty handily replicated in the game. The Blood Bowl games, I have played them. In the past, I've generally felt that Blood Bowl is a bit too mathematical for my taste. But I don't know. I'm just getting the itch to play some video games set in the Warhammer universes. I'm not sure there's anything. There was a game for I can't remember what it was. There was a 40k shooter game announced at one of the last events, but I can't remember what it is, and it didn't necessarily tickle my fancy. But the Dawn of War style game, that sounds interesting. And of course, Blood Bowl, you pretty much know what you're getting. This is just a cinematic trailer. There actually isn't too much here to really digest. But yeah, I do find it interesting that Games Workshop have sort of spotted this, and if you ever read their financials, which I have, they do talk about video games and selling their IPs to video game companies and stuff like that. Obviously Warhammer Underworlds is a pretty faithful recreation to Warhammer Underworlds. Obviously the game is called Warhammer Underworlds Online. Blood Bowl is a pretty faithful recreation. So there are those games. Mordheim they did a game of in the past. We had Vermintide. I don't think Mordheim really follows the game, like the actual tabletop game, but I never played Mordheim, so it's hard for me to say. The Vermintide, everybody seemed to enjoy that. Obviously, you then had Warhammer. You also have Warhammer Total War, or which should have just been called Total Warhammer, but there you have it. People seem to really, really, really like that. I used to play the Total War games, but if I'm honest, I never really understood what I was doing. I was just sort of clicking and dragging people and trying to flank without really sort of paying attention or knowing what I was doing. But yeah, this is coming out. Did they say when? I don't think it said when. It said when. That is some quality English there. I don't think it said when, but yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I think it's pretty interesting that, well, that we're getting Age of Sigmar games. It's interesting that we're getting 40k games. It's interesting that we've had fantasy games. It's like Games Workshop are trying to milk those 3 key IPs, and I mean, good, you know. There's no reason that a tabletop hobby can't also integrate video games and have that as like the IP. It sort of makes perfect sense. And the fact that they're not physically risking anything themselves, really, I guess Games Workshop, I don't know if they get any of the profits. I doubt they have to put any of the money up for it. Developers will just come along and be like, can we buy your IP because we think it'll sell? And Games Workshop are like, yes. And to be fair, even the bad Games Workshop games, nothing really happens. Like, people just forget them. Games Workshop's reputation doesn't really decrease, so it's sort of like a win-win for them. And yeah, I can sort of imagine that keep going on. I would have loved to have personally seen an MMO, because I'm a bit obsessed with MMOs, if anybody's checked out my random channel. But yeah, like, I obviously Warhammer Age of Reckoning didn't necessarily do that well and ended up getting closed down, but an MMO setting that's in the 40k universe would have been, could be really interesting. Whether or not like they'll ever do something like that, I obviously have no idea. But these are some games. There's 3 main ones that I would probably play if you like come over to the Twitch channel. If I do play these, will be Warhammer Underworlds Online, Blood Bowl 3 when it comes out eventually, and I say eventually, that made it sound really like sarcastic. I have no idea when it's coming out, is basically what I'm trying to say. And the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground is just not a nice throwing, like, Groundstorm, it may even have sounded better, but either way, I like the sound of that game, and it will be pretty interesting. So either come check me out there, or let me know what you think about these games. I mean, we already knew about Blood Bowl, so it's really just the Age of Sigmar one, but for me, it's interesting, exciting, and we'll see what the game's actually like. Dawn of War 1 and 2, highly loved amongst a lot of people who like RTSs. Maybe not the third one, but then, different developers. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.